Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is live. It is Thursday night. It is Bank Chat Thursday. One of the most loaded shows that we'll ever have. We have a full pro day recap. We have some of the stuff that went down in practice today. Some great stuff. Super excited about it. We also have a dynamic running back out of Texas whose film we are going to break down and watch with all of you. So, as always, we appreciate you guys. We thank you guys. And we are growing like crazy thanks to you. So keep on clicking those like buttons, keep on subscribing, hit that little alert button. We're a little earlier today, but it is going to be a great show. Super excited. Get those questions in here as you guys start filing into the chat. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into it with my good friend Nevada. How are you today, Nevada?
Doing great. Lots going on around Ohio State. Big pro day yesterday. And like you said, another practice, another bit of information revealed about the team. So excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you see the level of talent, the level of you can always gauge how talented a team was the previous year based upon how well attended the pro day is, and it might have broke the record yesterday. It surely broke the record for net worth with David Tepper in the building. Those of you that don't know who David Tepper is, he is the owner of the Carolina Panthers. He is the richest of all the NFL owners, and he also has the number one pick. So the Carolina Panthers made a huge splash. They traded away DJ Moore, who's a superstar receiver. They traded up from 9 to move up to number 1 to secure, and they gave up a King's ransom. I think the Bears won that trade hand over fist. They got 2 first rounds coming back their way. But CJ Stroud was kind of the belle of the ball with David Tepper, Frank Wright, the new head coach, in attendance. Nevada, what do you think of CJ Stroud's performance? I love that he got to throw to Marvin. He got to throw to our boy, Jaden Ballard. Hopefully he'll get to catch some balls this year for Ohio State. But what are your thoughts on what CJ and maybe Jackson Smith-Njigba did?
Well, I mean, CJ solidified himself as the safe number 1 pick in the draft. But CJ, he put on a show that a lot of people are like, wow, I've never seen anybody throw better than that. And I don't think it's ever been a question of how well he can throw when he's not being hit. The question is how well he's going to throw when he's being hit. And I think that's an open question. It's an open question with every quality quarterback. But CJ was great. But the guy that everybody's talking about, in my opinion, the guy that kind of stole the thunder at the pro day, if it's possible to steal from a number 1 overall pick, was Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I've got just multiple calls from people going, Marvin Harrison Jr. is like a cross between Marvin Harrison Sr. and Calvin Johnson, and it's they are not just waiting to pick him in the draft next year. He'll go super high. Enjoy him, Buckeye fans, for one more year, because he ain't going to be here past next season. But yeah, he was great. CJ was great. It just shows how great the program is. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, he'll be a top 15 pick, and I'm praying he goes to my Packers. I think he'd be unbelievable in the slot, and a guy that's going to just be an NFL star for years and years and years to come. So no, it was all in all, it was just a great day for the program, and really a testament to where Ohio State football sits on the pyramid of football, just right at the top, and great day for it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Shout out to Redlegs. Just signed up for the Scoop yesterday. Welcome to the Scoop, my friend. We've had a ton of new subscribers over the last couple weeks. Thank all of you guys that are in here. Again, we love, if you guys like this channel and you guys like this podcast, the Scoop is like this 24 hours a day, so it's a blast. Bill the Bank Green was on there doing his chat today, so we appreciate that. All you do Scoop subscribers, all you current Scoop subscribers. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Some of these guys never they decided not to run. CJ Stroud did not run a 40, did not do any of the short shuttle drills. Paris Johnson did not run a 40. Dewan ran a 40 at the combine, but none of them did any of the shuttle tests. And I think that's kind of a new wave where guys are just like, you know what? If something can only hurt me, why do it? Jackson Smith-Njigba did a full workout. He did his 40. They timed at 4:48, and they also he did the shuttles at the combine, and he was the fastest shuttle times at the combine for the L drill and the 5:10.5, the short shuttle. So for Jackson, as nice as the 4:48 is, his short area quickness is something that I think it makes it harder for guys to defend, especially if they're slot guys. I don't know if I would use him in the slot. I think he'd be great in the slot, but the slot receiver is a tough gig, man. You see how beat up guys like Wes Welker are at the end of their career, and some of these guys, because you're going to the over the middle against safeties, linebackers. You're getting clocked, so it's a tough spot, and you got to be a man to play in the slot. Generally, I think it's a smaller receiver, a quicker receiver, but man, you subject yourself some by definition to some tough hits. I thought Paris, it looked like the number one tackle in the country. It's going to be really fascinating to see if the Bears pass on the Northwestern product, who some project as the number one tackle. I think Paris just has immense upside. He's a kid that I said is the most talented tackle since Orlando Pace. He'll be the highest drafted tackle since Orlando Pace. And he's only 20. He's just a youngster and a super mature kid. Great mom. She's been wonderful to get to know and deal with. Raised her kid right. And Dewan, it was interesting. Dewan didn't weigh in. He didn't do anything yesterday. He didn't do any drill. He didn't even do any drills. And again, I don't fault these guys for it, because basically at this point, as long as you don't do anything stupid and get hurt, then you're golden. Like Dewan he'll be gone in the first 2-3 rounds, and he'll be a millionaire. And all you have to do is just not get hurt. And we've seen guys tear their ACLs at pro day. We've seen guys tear their Achilles at pro days, tear their hamstrings, running a 40. And I mean, if Dewan's agent said, "Hey, don't do anything, just show up," and he ran 140, he measured in, and that was that. And he didn't even do position work with Paris and Luke Whippler. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but I don't fault him. It didn't hurt Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa didn't do anything ever. He didn't do a 40, didn't do a shuttle, didn't do a 225, and he went second overall. So if you're good enough, don't do anything. Paris didn't run a 40. And again, I think the 40-yard dash is kind of antiquated. I think that for receivers and corners, yeah, it's nice to get that number, but for some of these guys that pull their hamstrings doing it kind of screws you for the rest of your workout and for any individual workouts that you'd have when teams come back to campus to work you out. So it'll be interesting to see what pro days look like in 5 years, if they still do the full myriad of drills. Because if you're a guy like Marvin Harrison, why would you ever run a 40? What do they think, you're not fast enough? I mean, you're gonna be a top 2 pick as long as you don't hurt yourself. So I think there's gonna be a shift in the mentality with that. Any other standouts, Nevada? I saw, like I said, David Tepper being there was pretty impressive. That guy's a beast, a big financial sector guy. But any other surprises from Pro Day for you?
Well, no, just to the point of what you said about Dewan, it's kind of like I think about Jalen Carter at the Georgia Pro Day, and he goes out and he's overweight, he's out of shape, and he can't finish the drills. That probably didn't help him. He'd been better off sitting in the stands eating taquitos and taking questions from the guys than doing it. You're right. At that point, they're just trying to pick you apart. So I think for a guy like Dewan, it's like, hey, what you see is what you get. You've got a lot of tape on him. You got a lot of tape against the best teams in the country. And if teams can't figure out what to do with a 6'8", 380-pound tackle who can move like that, then shame on them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just think that the higher you are up the food chain, if you're a guy like Dewan, I think about like Orlando Brown Jr. Orlando Brown Jr. just signed $60 million deal with the Bengals. Franchise player for the Chiefs last year. Turned down, kind of fumbled the bag and turned down a 6 year, $139 million deal last year, which was stupid. But he turned it down because he bet on himself and I guess kind of lost. But, if Orlando Brown doesn't have that terrible combine performance where he ran like a 5.8 40 and had the worst measurables like in NFL history, he probably goes first round. But, so I think like for Dewan, when you're a supersized tackle and they're going to just say, oh, well, you're in the 1 percentile of your short shuttle, 1 percentile of the L drill. Like, why even put that out there? There's no point. So I agree with it because, like, it cost Orlando Brown, being a first-round pick, and he slid down to the third round. He's made it up for it on the second contract, but some guys don't. Some of these guys, they put out a bad combine performance, man, and it just deletes all the good tape. Practice number 4 today, and we have a scrimmage on Saturday, so it's starting to heat up a little bit. They had some good group activity today. Talked to some guys at practice. It's getting physical. It's getting chippy, which I love. Nevada, who is starting to stand out? I think that we got to start buying a lot of stock in Carson Hinsman because I think he's going to be the guy at center. I think that the line is solidifying a little quicker than some would have projected. But what are your thoughts on the offensive line and the team in general through 4 practices?
Yeah, I think through 4 practices, I think you're right. I think the line's starting to take shape, and I think if I was a betting man, I'd go, Josh Fryer at left tackle, Donnie Jackson at left guard, Carson Hinsman at center, Matt Jones at right guard, and Zen Mikulski at right tackle. I think that's your starting lineup for the Buckeyes. I think that's the number one line going into the spring game. And unless something changes, now a lot can change between now and then, but that's five pretty good starters heading into next season. And I think the Buckeyes have kind of found their guys. Things are starting to shape up on that offensive line. And the good news is some of the younger guys are really starting to step up and starting to push it. And I think you've got a lot of competition. It's a 9-10 deep competition for offensive line positions, and top notch in 2023.
You will be too. I'm really excited about it. Also, the offensive line, there was a commitment. Ben Robick committed to Michigan. Again, I don't care. He was not offered by Ohio State. I wish him well. I don't wish him well that he's going to Michigan, but he's a nice kid to deal with during the deal. If Ohio State, isn't on you and they've already offered 3 kids in Ohio, I can't fault a kid for taking a Michigan offer, but it's just interesting because, we're kind of going nationally. We've got Ian Moore out of Indiana. We're probably going to get the twins, the Armstrong twins. We got Mark Nave already committed. And then maybe Jordan Seaton is a likely candidate. But Nevada, are you worried that we are not going to sign 2 of the top 3 offensive linemen in the state of Ohio this year?
Mr. Barton, was that a question or a comment there, Mr. Barton?
That was a question. Are you worried about
it? Okay. No, I'm not worried about it. I think the offensive line goes 6. I had originally thought it was going to go 5. I think it'll be 6 guys this year. But look, clearly Ohio State's rankings for the offensive lineman in state is different than the rating services rankings for the lineman in state, and that's okay. And like you said, if guys choose to, that they're not offered, they choose to go elsewhere, then I wish them well. I wish them well in every game other than against Ohio State. And that stuff never really come back to haunt us too much. I think Ohio State's got to go out and find some guys. I'm a little surprised. I mean, I don't really consider Indiana to be kind of a national search, but I'm kind of surprised that we haven't really been able to get in on any of the big time, national offensive linemen to shit. We got a couple kids from out west, some of the Bosco kids that we're starting to establish relationships with, but got a little bit of a ways to go. Hold on to more, get 4 or 5 kids from in state. And I think it probably will be that high because I just don't see anybody from out of state that's going to pop. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Ohio State go 4 or 5 deep, in the state of Ohio this year because, they like those Ohio kids. And I think that's a decided change. The Oracle's talked about the change in Ohio recruiting, how they've started to become more Ohio centric. I think it's, nowhere else is going to be, more evident than that than on the offensive line.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, anymore you go where the best players are, you go pull the best players. Like when we got Nick Petitford out of Tampa, we got Donnie Jackson out of Texas. Paris is obviously a Cincinnati kid. Carson Hinsman is out of Wisconsin. Matt Jones out of New York. Zen's out of Indiana. Josh Fryer's out of Indiana. So, hey, man, if you don't have enough good players in the state of Ohio, as much as I love Ohio linemen, go get them. Go get them wherever they're at. It's not a big deal to me just because I think you just have to go get the best players. It's like, back in the olden days, you could get Troy Smith and you could get Maurice Clarett, but now you got to go get CJ Stroud out of Inland Empire, California. You got to go get Trey Henderson out of Virginia. You got to go get Marvin Harrison out of Philly. So I just think that's how it works now. And us going national was a big thing that Urban did, and I think it's been one of the things that's kept this program evolving and at the top of the food chain for college football. With that being said, we are going to get into a national running back. Got our guy James Peoples here. This is a guy. So we lost a commitment to Michigan, another one, a running back commitment. It was kind of stunning, but I do not give up the faith yet. So it looks like we're going to get James Peoples out of Texas. Really, really athletic kid. Let the tape roll. Here he is again. Texas football is always fun to watch because they always have awesome stadiums, awesome talent, extremely well coached, big time football. Nevada, we're going to let a couple of these plays roll, but your reaction to James Peoples, can he be the next great Ohio State running back?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I think the People's situation and Marshall's situation are related. People have to understand that. I mean, Marshall's not looking to go to a place where People's is going, and when he got wind that he's a likely commit on his visit, I think that drove Marshall up to Michigan. I don't think he wanted to be in a co-running back situation with a guy like this, because this is, and personally, if I had a choice between the two, Peoples is who I'm going with. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, and it could be 6 of one, half dozen of another. But I like Peoples. Everybody down in Texas raves about the kid, playing at a high level of football, dominating at every step, and really a damn running back, and do it all kind of running back for you. And I think Ohio State's going to get. I mean, this is a really, really good run. This would be a big score for Tony Alford. I hope he can bring it home, and I'm confident that it will, and I'm confident it's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, I like when I see them run some of the similar play stuff that we do. We run this counter play a lot. This is a spread thing where you pull the guard and tackle backside. You read it. This is this is a staple play in our offense now. This is something that Mitch Rossi was really good at it. He had a nice pro day yesterday. You pull your guard, kick, wall, handoff. Like, I always love when there's synergies between our offense and what these guys do. They ran a nifty little bubble screen back here, which I love running screens out of empty, just because it's such a different look, especially when you can get it to a running back and he can up it right here. It is. So they run this little bubble screen, and it's interesting how he adjusts because it's covered initially. So they look at him, and then he just kind of freestyles here and gets open. This is just being a football player, because if the quarterback throws it here, it's a pick. I mean, this guy's all over him. So he literally just goes out and gets open. And again, this is probably a ball that you don't teach to throw because this guy's driving on it, but it gets in here, and watch the speed, the quick. I mean, that is an unbelievable play. I mean, he takes it to the house too. So it's like that's a football player. Like, that is an unbelievable play. Like, I love watching film on guys like this, because you see the balance, you see the quickness, you see the toughness. He doesn't go down easy, and you love that ability. I love running backs that can catch the ball, just because in Ryan Day's offense, I think it's criminal how little we utilize our running backs in the passing game. I think it's something that's really, especially with young tackles, you can, there's some pass protections where, a guy can help a tackle for like a split second, like a moment, like a one count, and then kind of pivot out and just be a nice little outlet dump pass for the quarterback. And, that's hard to account for, because if a guy looks like he's staying in on protection, then all of a sudden he's open. Sometimes that triggers a linebacker to blitz, and it can be just scot free. You see it all the time in the NFL. But yeah, I love his ability. And again, like, you see him split safeties, go down the middle of the field, and nobody's really catching him. So I love his film. Again, I never sweat if we lose a kid to Michigan. It sucks. Obviously we'd like to have the kid in the fold, but our recruiting has been pretty good over the last few years. I think that our offensive line recruiting over the last 10 years is the best in the history of the program, in my opinion. Our quarterback recruiting is the best probably in the history of the program. If you just go off the draft status of Dwayne and Justin, and then CJ and whoever's next. Running backs, Trey will be a high pick this year. He needs to have a Bijan type year where he bounces back and has that big year. So I like the roster, the talent on our roster, but we gotta convert some of these ultra talented teams into national championships, man. Because I'm telling you, I keep thinking, man, we lost it with CJ Stroud, or we lost it with Justin Fields, but we've had these generationally talented teams that haven't even won the Big Ten, which is almost crazy. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? What needs to change to get Ohio State over the hump?
We need to score one more point than Michigan in the big game. No, I mean, like, that's what it is. I mean, we've lost Michigan, Davis will duck us in 20, and they've kind of, they've been good the last couple of years, and they've played better than we have in that one game. I don't think they're a better team, but they were certainly better on those days. They beat us up there in Michigan. They beat us in Columbus. So, they've got kind of the bragging rights. They've got a little bit of the momentum in that game right now, and we just got to get back on the right side of that, and you take care of business in that game, and a lot of things happen. So I like I said, I draw conclusions on small sample sizes, and small sample sizes to me. You talk about one game, so many things can happen in one game. I mean, I am convinced, and will go to my grave convinced, that if the center on the fake punt snaps the ball up to the up man, that we win that game. So that one now, I mean, people might think I'm crazy because Nevada, you're crazy. Or that one play didn't make a difference. I'm convinced it would have made that big of a difference in the play. So when it's that fine a thing, or one rotation on the ball on a field goal, to beat Georgia and go on and win the national championship, it's hard for me to be too down in the dumps. We're not far away. We're right there on the edge, and I think we'll get it done. And I think Ryan Day is going to have a great year. I already like what I'm hearing out of Ryan Day's mouth. I love the move to Hartline. Forget the fact that we're moving Hartline to offensive coordinator. Think about what that says about Ryan Day as a coach. So what it says about Ryan Day as a coach is, I'm confident enough in this program that I can step away from calling the plays. I don't have to micromanage. I can go back and be more of a CEO, global manager of the program. I feel that's how confident I am in my coaching staff. That's how confident I am in what we're doing, that I can step away from calling the plays and do it. I think that's a great statement about Ryan Day and how he feels about a person and where he feels he is his development as a coach. And I think that's a very positive thing for Ohio State in 2023 and beyond.
I totally agree. I think that Brian had to take that next step in his career. I said that to him last year. I said, Brian, you got to start calling plays somewhere. And he's like, well, that's Ryan's gig. I'm like, well, dude, if you want to be a head coach, you got to be a play call. Look at Lincoln Riley, look at Ryan Day, look at, other than Urban Meyer, every other coach in the universe has either called an offense or a defense. Belichick, Saban, you go down the list. They've been a coordinator somewhere. They've ran a side of the ball, because this is the natural progression to go from running half the team, like running the offense as a coordinator or the defense as a coordinator, to running the whole team as a head coach. And, I think it'll be interesting to see, how Brian does. I imagine he'll be in the box, which I mean, I can't imagine him trying to be on the sideline trying to call the plays, but I hope that, he's smart enough to go up in the box. But it'll be really interesting. I'm super excited to see, how well he marries the passing game to the running game. Obviously, our passing game has been incredibly successful. I think our running game, we have as talented of a running backs room as we've probably ever had at Ohio State. So, we're deep, we're talented, best receivers in the country, top 2 receivers for sure in the country. So it's going to be tough to defend. And Cade Stover might be the best tight end in the country. So he's got a loaded room to move around and toy with. And we've got a lot of really talented freshmen at tight end, at receiver. So again, it's, part of being the offense coordinator is calling the plays. The other part is getting some of these guys the requisite number of touches. So you got to keep that little check mark sheet where you say, okay, Marvin needs 10, Emeka needs 8, Trey needs, 15, whatever the numbers are. But that's part of the balancing act when you're being a coordinator. I love this kid's film. I really do. I mean, he's a burner. He's tough. Again, like I said, he doesn't go down like I'm breaking tackles in the secondary, and guys don't catch him from behind. I love the guys that can take it 70 yards and no one can catch him from behind. And again, this is good football. This is Texas football, so that makes a huge difference to me. Because again, if this is Virginia or Indiana football, it's not the same kind of level of excitement as if it's Texas football. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting spring. We'll take some questions. You guys got some good questions in here so far. I'm super excited about the offense. So, what about the defense, though? Because I'm like you. I think the defense is going to be better this year. I think it's going to be much better. But what is your thought on the defense?
Well, I think the defense. My 2 big questions on the defense were the cornerbacks and the interior defensive line. And hearing good things on both sides. The emergence of Jair Brown as the 4th cornerback to go with Jordan Hancock and Denzel Burke and Davison. I mean, cornerback went from a question mark to a position of strength for the Buckeyes. We know how good the linebackers are. We have every reason to believe that our defensive end play is going to be, high quality. We've got a ton of safeties, going back, and I'm hearing that some of the interior defensive linemen are doing a good job and look the part, and we'll find out more on Saturday after the scrimmage. But I'm hearing some very encouraging things. Plus the second year in a Jim Knowles system, which we all knew was going to take a huge step. No, this is look, our biggest question mark coming out of spring football may be the place kicker or something like that. And when those are your biggest questions, the long snapper. Will the long snapper remember to snap it to the guy up front, or will he almost snap it over the punter's head because he's running to the right to fake punting in the Aussie rollout? So when
Yeah.
those are your biggest questions, I think you're in pretty good shape heading into 2023.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that I always count on a little, and I put up James Peoples' kind of his stat sheet right here, so you guys can see it real quick. But I always think it's interesting when these guys go into their third years because you see a pronounced change when guys are entering their draft eligible year because these guys all want to leave after 3 years. Like it's not a secret that guys like JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, those guys all want to leave after 3 years. Mike Hall, and to do that, they got to have that monster year this year. They got to have that first team All American year. So all of a sudden, it's more grilled chicken and lettuce, less booze, less partying. Tighten up a little bit, get a little more treatment. Take care of yourself, study more film. Get extra pass rush work or offensive line, whatever, extra jugs if you're a wide receiver. So, guys like Denzel Burke, a guy that would love to be 3-and-out, a guy like JT, there's some guys that have a real opportunity here. And again, like the beauty of our offense is we're going to score so many points that we'll have more pass rush opportunities than anybody in the entire country because everyone's going to be behind us and they're going to be having to throw the whole game. So when you're these D ends and these D tackles, you have ample opportunities to get after the quarterback. It's not going to be a slog fest like it was back in the olden days. So I think guys like Tyleek, guys like Mike, I think Tyleek is going to take a huge step. Like the guys I talked to, they say he has been a monster in practice. And again, it's never been about talent with Tyleek. It's been about consistency. And consistency means you got to get in shape. Because the only way you can play consistent is if you're not sucking wind and you're tired. So I think that he's taken that to heart because – if he becomes more of an every down force, and that's hard to do when you weigh 340 pounds or whatever, like it's hard to have a motor to play every down, but you get down to 320, 315, magically you don't have that extra 25 pounds around your gut, then you can be a little shiftier and you can play a little bit longer. And again, it doesn't seem like a lot, 25 pounds, but go put a 25-pound weight on your back and go run around with it and see how it feels. And that's kind of what like Tyleek is. So I think guys are tightening up. Again, I think that the quarterback room has got a different energy now. I think that Ryan Day bringing the secondary together with Tim Walton kind of being the new director of the secondary according to the promotion, and leading the 3 safeties and the 2 corners to have a little bit more cohesion and meeting a little bit more together. I think that's huge because I think there were too many missed assignments last year. There was too many moments of inconsistent coverage, which indicates that guys didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to check defenses, or there's things you can tell when guys aren't on the same page in the entire back end. So Ryan Day is like, hey, I'm going to make Tim Walton the passing game coordinator or whatever his title is, secondary coordinator, and get everybody together and get everybody on the same page because I think that's important. Like people don't realize they think that it's just the corners on the receiver and that's that, but when there's motions and shifts and whatever, and you check coverages, everybody has to be on the same page or it can get ugly in a hurry. And I think that Ryan saw too much of that last year, so he's bringing everybody together. I love, let me see. Oh, this is funny.
Well, yeah, and Kirk, let me. I just want to make one comment on some of the stuff you said. I mean, I don't know if people have missed the fact that the cornerbacks and safeties are going to start meeting more together. That's a huge thing. That is different than it was last year, and that is a recognition of some of the disconnects that were going on last year with with a cornerback coach and a safeties coach. How you've got to get those guys on the same page and on any defensive scheme, but especially in this one. And the second thing is we have to remember, Tressel always preached about how everything was connected. The offense, was connected to the defense, which was connected to the special teams, and he liked to play a slow me down, ball control game, grind out the clock, punt for field position, put the defense in a good spot, go out there, have every possession end in a kick, et cetera, et cetera. You have to remember, it's totally different now. Ryan Day's philosophy is score as quickly as possible, score as much as possible. If you're the defense, the worst thing you can do is give up a long grinding drive where the other team possesses the ball for 10 minutes and then scores at the end of it. better to have them score quickly, than score on a long drive. Take some chances, get negative plays, try to create turnovers. Play an up and down game. We're okay winning 45-32. That's just completely different than the way that it was, way back in the olden days. Back in 06 when you played there, Kirk. Things couldn't be more different. And I think as a fan, people just got to recognize the changes going on, not only in college football in general, but at Ohio State in particular. It's a more up-tempo style. There's going to be more points scored. There's going to be more points allowed. And it's kind of baked into the cake when you play that fast break kind of offense. But that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, it's like the Phoenix Suns when they had Steve Nash and they'd score 140 and give up 135. They won; they were the best team in the NBA. But that's just kind of what it is now, because we're not ball control, grind the clock. We are trying to score as many points as humanly possible, and we're going to be throwing that thing deep. We're not running the ball nearly as much. And again, when you run the ball more, you naturally grind the clock a little bit more. So that's just part of the gig. And again, I think that Ryan does get a little too much chuck at Charlie for me sometimes. I think you need to run it, especially if your defense is struggling. Like, keep them off the field, let them catch their breath, and kind of recalibrate. I think that was something that Jim Tressel doesn't get enough credit for. He was brilliant about making sure that the defense was always put in good positions, that we didn't screw them over, and costly turnovers, costly errors, and mistake-free opportunistic offense is what Tressel always said. And again, that's boring to people compared to high-flying Ryan Day offense, and I totally get that. But there's a reason why he's got 5 rings, including one against the Miami Hurricanes. It's because of his style of football. It's funny. They had a question. They said, like, everyone said the Jackson Smith and Jigba had a different time. I saw 4.48, but it doesn't. As long as he's under 4.6, he's fine. I mean, Jarvis Landry had a 4.7, and he's been in the league for 15 years. We talked about Carson Hinsman, our girl Sue, who's always on here. You're the best, Sue. Thoughts on Carson Hinsman as a starting center? I think he's going to be fantastic. I think that, again, you can read the tea leaves sometimes, and you talk to people inside the Woody Hayes sometimes. Again, when they're putting Matt Jones at right guard and Donnie Jackson at left guard, that means they have somebody they really like at center. Jacob James is out. I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance when he recovers for fall camp, but man, missing this spring is just absolutely devastating for Jacob James. And he's a great kid, but his dad's been a great coach at St. X for a long time. But I think that, man, when you miss spring, and I was a guy personally that went through that in 2004. I had a shoulder surgery, so I missed the beginning of spring, and then I came back for the middle week of spring, and I crushed my ankle, rolled it severely. I was out for like 4 to 6 weeks, severe ankle sprain. So I missed all of spring, lost the starting job at right tackle. I thought I was the best tackle, lost the job after 4 weeks of the 2004 season. I took over as a starting tackle for the rest of my career. But if you're not able to participate in spring, it kills your chances of starting. They're not going to start a guy who has no film and wasn't able to go against Tyleek and Mike Holloway, Carson Hinsman is. So Nevada, we kind of talked about Carson again, but since Sue's always on here, your thoughts on Carson. Is he the day one center, and how good can he be?
He can be great. And I think he's, like you said, he's putting some distance between him and the pack. I think they brought in Cutler to kind of be some, potential competition, the transfer from Louisiana Tech or whatever, Louisiana State, Louisiana, whatever it was. But no, I think Carson's kind of putting a stranglehold on it. But what's interesting about the line, and I can't remember I have to go back and check this, but I don't remember the last time this has happened. But it's much garbage stud at the line. But he's not recruiting nationally. This is 5 starters, all from out of the state of Ohio. You've got Josh Fryer, Indiana. You've got Donnie Jackson from Texas. You've got Carson Hinsman from Wisconsin, of all places. Matt Jones from New York, and Zen Mikulski from Indiana. Like, not a single starter from the state of Ohio on the offensive line for the Buckeyes. Has that ever happened in your recollection? Can you ever remember that happening?
I don't think so. I'm sure someone will correct us, but just go back in my head. I mean, I can't remember us not having a single starter from the state of Ohio. And again, it's a rare thing. And again, of all the recruiting things that are funny, because again, like we've waxed poetic about stud, but him pulling Carson Hinsman out of Wisconsin, a really good offensive lineman from Wisconsin, where Wisconsin is an offensive line powerhouse. They're a machine. And we just don't ever get any kids from Wisconsin. I can't remember the last kid that we got out of the state of Wisconsin that the Badgers wanted or whatever. Like we usually don't even recruit Wisconsin because if they have a good player, they're going to be a Badger, like almost period end. And we pulled an offensive lineman from the state of Wisconsin. So I mean that is about as crazy could ever be. It'd be like stealing like a great defensive tackle from the state of Alabama or Louisiana. Like there's certain states that we don't even try to recruit. We don't even try to recruit Alabama. We don't even try to recruit Louisiana other than Tackett Curtis because we're not going to get a kid out of LSU that LSU wants. Like we're not going to get one of those top drawer guys. We're not going to get a kid out of Bama if Bama wants them. You know, and we're not going to get a kid out of Wisconsin. And if Wisconsin wants them, except for Carson Hinsman. So again, kudos to Stud because that just doesn't happen. I'm going to move. This is a great question, Chip. So he thinks that Chip Trevanham should move to the Mitch Rossi fullback / H-back position or back to linebacker, but he loves being a running back. Nevada, who would you try at the Mitch Rossi fullback / H-back position?
Well, I've talked about it a number of times, and I think it's actually happening in real time. Is Reed Carrico? I think that's happening. I think that's a move we're gonna see him try it out there, and people are gonna go, oh wow, Nevada Buck talked about this. But yeah, I think he's the guy to do it. Could Chip do it? Absolutely. But I mean, Reed's the perfect guy to do it. I mean, he is Mitch Rossi. If Mitch Rossi, had a son, he would be Reed Carrico, and he'd be from Ironton, and he'd be tough as nails, and he'd be strong as an ox, and not afraid to go up there and hit anybody in the mouth. I think it should happen. I think it is happening, and that's my guy for the fullback position.
Yeah, I think Reed would be just. I mean, and I love Mitch Rossi, but from a overall athleticism standpoint, Reed is superhuman Mitch Rossi because he's a 4.5 40 guy. He's he's athletic. He's just kind of stuck in a logjam right now because you look at that room right now and you've got you got Cody Simon and CJ Hicks in front of you, and then you got Gabe Powers. Obviously Tommy and Steele are written in permanent marker as our starting linebackers, and then Cody Simon is the next starter at either position, and then probably CJ Hicks. So if you're Reed, going into this year, man, you got to get on the field, and they want him to be a core special teams guy. They want him to do that kind of stuff, but what a role Mitch Rossi turned that H-back spot into. I mean, against Georgia, he was our running back for most of the game. I mean, because he was such a good pass blocker. If Reed can embrace that and be a utility knife type guy where he can, be a great pass protector, be tough, maybe get a couple cheap receiving touchdowns, I think that would be a fantastic role for him just because, he was a great running back at Ironton. Great. So he has ball skills. He knows how to carry the ball, knows how to block. He's ultra physical. And the coolest thing about Reed is he has a Rax roast beef NIL deal, which I didn't even know Rax existed. But one day I was driving through some part of Southern Ohio and I saw Reed Carrico on a billboard holding a Rax roast beef sandwich. So I hope that he gets to get on the field. I talked to some people down in Southern Ohio that say he's going to do anything, any role that they present. Because last year, Kevin Wilson did want to move him. Asked if he wanted to play, the Mitch Rossi position behind Mitch Rossi. He said no. And, then he kind of just, wasted away on the bench for years. So now all of a sudden, man, you look at like what Cade Stover has evolved into. Why can't he be that? Why can't he kind of evolve to being a big time tight end, a big time H-back? He's got the speed, he's got the ball skills, he's got the hands. And again, there's always room for physical, tough football players. So a guy like Cade Stover will play 10 years in the NFL. He'll be a special teamer. He'll be the tough blocking tight end. I played with guys in the league, and I think of 15 different guys I played with in the league that were like that. They weren't Antonio Gates. They weren't Tony Gonzalez. They weren't the Darren Waller, the pretty boy guy that gets 80 catches and is a force in the red zone. They're these guys that do these grimy, gritty jobs. They're blockers on first down. A perfect example of that is like Dan Campbell, the coach for Detroit. He lasted like 7 years in the league, was blocking tight end. Jason Witt would come in and catch the ball. Shockey would come in and catch the ball. But, when they needed to get, first down, they'd run behind Dan Campbell. So that's kind of the role that he could turn into. He's not quite as big as Cade, but again, when you have a good athlete like that and a role that needs filled, I think he'd be the perfect guy. Um, this is another good Sue question. I appreciate you. Does Enoch or Ben Chrisman have any path to the field this year? I think that I was stunned when Enoch was not one of the starters initially. Again, I think it speaks more to how highly they think of Carson Hinsman than it does Enoch. But I'm gonna let you take this one, Nevada. Your thoughts on Enoch and Ben Christman? Do they have any path to the field this year?
I mean, they do, but some things are going to have to happen. And, yeah, I think, as we've talked about, typically you're not going much more than 6 or 7 deep on the offensive line. These are definitely the sixth and seventh offensive linemen for Ohio State. The question, and it's an open question, and I'm not going to try speculation in any particular kid, but you just hope that they stick around, that they don't feel like they're locked out of the starting spot and portal. So I think the path to the field is to stay patient, keep working. Try to fill in as one of those utility guys up and down the line. Anything can happen on the line. Guys can get hurt, things can change. There can be an entire line shuffling. I think the open question is whether they're going to be patient enough to see that out to the end.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, those are guys that Enoch's got to be on transfer watch. Like if I was in his shoes and I wasn't a starting guard as a fifth year guy, like you gotta if you're gonna go play in the league, you gotta go transfer. And again, I have no intel that he's thinking that, but I'm just saying if I was in his shoes, I'd have a good hard conversation with Justin Fry. Where am I at? Why did I not get? If I was Enoch, I'd have tried to play center, right tackle, anywhere, one of the open spots. But again, it's just the offensive line coach Justin Fry thinks that he's got the best five right now, and it's a long season. Guys get hurt. There's opportunities to come along, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes post spring. Dave Rice, appreciate you, bro. I know you're always on here. Would Mike Vrabel take the OSU job if offered after Ryan Day is gone? Bill Green in our chat today says he would. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Oh, I first of all, if Bill says he would, that's a pretty good indicator. My instinct is that he would as well. I think, I think for Vrabel, Vrabel would be an unbelievable college coach. A young, energetic guy like that who could surround himself with good coordinators, do his thing. Hard nosed enough to kind of embrace the power running game that you got to have at Ohio State, but operating in the NFL, so understands advanced passing concepts, and obviously his defensive credentials are etched in stone. So I think it would be a great move, and it's such a blessing for Ohio State to have something like that on on the potential short list if the unthinkable happened and Ryan left. But yeah, I agree. I think he would take it.
Yeah, I think you would too. I think that, him and his wife are from here. They lived here for, in the offseason when he was with the Patriots, he was in Powell. He had a beautiful house here. Obviously sold it, moved on to the NFL. But, he kept his residence here the entire time he was in the NFL. So I think that he would absolutely consider it. I think that, the way that the pay is rising in college football, it's more competitive with the NFL. Again, for people that don't know, like the top tier NFL coaches make about 20 a year, about 20 million a year. Sean Payton's making about 26 a year, 24, 26 a year. Ryan Day's making like 9 a year. So it kind of just gives you some, spread. And we have the highest paid coaching staff in college football at this point. So like Lincoln Riley's making 15 million, but that's kind of creeping up to catch the NFL. I think that the hardest part about the NFL is, you don't always have control of your roster the way you do in college. For instance, he did not want to trade AJ Brown last year. He wanted to pay AJ Brown. He loved AJ Brown, and the general manager went ahead and traded him. And that guy went on to have a Pro Bowl season, broke the record for receiving yards for the Philadelphia Eagles, took him to the Super Bowl. And Vrabes had to roll with a rookie first rounder who wasn't ready to play, Treylon Burks, and wasn't anywhere near the force of nature that AJ Brown was the year before. So that killed the team because teams could really tee off on Derrick Henry without AJ Brown out on the perimeter, and I think that that's the reason why John Robinson, the former GM, got fired, is because he made that trade, and Mike Vrabel did not want that trade, and they took John Robinson had maybe the worst draft pick ever. Isaiah Wilson was a right tackle from Georgia. Honestly, reminded me a lot of Delani. He's from New York State. They took him in the first round. He was just an absolute colossal failure. Never started a game. Never played a game for the Titans. Got arrested for multiple times. Got cut. He was out of the league already after like 1 year. So if you're like a first round tackle and you're out of the league after 1 year, you have to be the biggest moron in history, and he was. He gained, he got up to 440 pounds or something crazy. So, again, when you're Vrabes and you got a first round pick, and this GM takes a guy and he turns out to be a turd, and then you trade your superstar wide receivers, one of the I think a top 5 receiver in the league. That stinks. So I think that kind of changes the NIL stuff and the college stuff, because I think Vrabel could adapt to that. I think he'd be really good at that. The question is, would he get the offer over Luke? Because Luke is the guy who's next in line. How would that work? That would be fascinating, honestly. If Gene Smith went to Mike Vrabel instead of Luke Fickell, I would potentially be shocked, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be something we have to deal with, because I think Ryan is going to be here for a while. I'm going to hit this last question, and I got to hit it. Nevada, do you think in the college game it's better to have an offensive head coach or a defensive minded head coach? Does it matter?
I mean, to me, I think having an offensive minded head coach makes sense, just because the offenses are ahead of the defenses now. It's not a defensive game anymore, and the rules are all set up to benefit the offenses. And the two positions that are overpowered are quarterback and wide receiver. So if you're going to have a coach that's a quarterback whisperer and get those elite quarterbacks. If you can get those quarterbacks, you'll get the wide receivers, and that's kind of what Ohio State's doing right now. And so no, having a guy like Ryan Day, who all of a sudden Ohio State hadn't had a first round quarterback, and now it's like you said, Haskins to Fields to CJ. It's pretty impressive. It's as impressive a run as we've ever seen. Certainly, we've never seen anything like it at Ohio State before. That's for sure. And as Kirk said, it's not stopping anytime soon. As long as Ryan Day's here, we'll always get elite quarterbacks, and they'll be drafted very highly by the NFL. So I would go with an offensive-minded guy.
Yeah, I think that there's no question you have to go an offensive-minded guy. I think defense is impossible to play anymore. Georgia, who had the most talented defense in the country, we dropped 40, 44, whatever, 43, whatever it was, and they're the most talented defense in the country, and their offense was also good, but our offense is what carried the mail for us. And I think that the quarterback is so overpowered. I think the throwing game is so overpowered. I think that having a Kirby Smart or having a Nick Saban, they got to have big time offense, and I think that if you don't have a big time quarterback coach as your head coach, it's hard to get a top drawer guy to commit there. I don't think that if you're Kirby Smart, I mean, do you get the number one quarterback? Maybe. I don't know. But if I'm a number one overall quarterback, I'm going to Lincoln Riley or Ryan Day, period, end of story. I'm done. Because, when there's a lot of transition with coordinators and position coaches, if you go to Ryan Day or you go to Lincoln Riley and they have long-term contracts at Ohio State and USC, you know that your true quarterback coach is going to be there. He's not going anywhere, as opposed to, committing to a defensive head coach who has an offensive coordinator like Todd Monken, who as soon as, he was there for 1 year, moved on to the Ravens. Now he's their offensive coordinator there. So you're just kind of in flux. Again, it's quarterback is a big business now. If these guys go high and they hit that second contract, they're making $40-50 million a year, like Joe Burrow's about to make, like Pat Mahomes is making, like Josh Allen is making. So, I think that having a high-powered quarterback guru as your head coach is the best way to do it. And we have a really good one in Ryan Day. I'm gonna take one last question. Yeah, I totally agree. We do need to have good defense. Like, I'm not saying you don't need defense at all. I just think that if you gave me the choice, and I think it's also reflective of what NFL teams feel, and I mean, they're hiring offensive gurus. Like, that's why Cliff Kingsbury was an NFL coach for 5 years or whatever it was. It's because he's an offensive guy. Andy Reid, offensive guy. Nick Sirianni, offensive guy. Like, Kyle Shanahan, offensive guy. So you see, like, the top tier teams, they're all former offensive coordinators. This is kind of how it is. the guy D'Amico Ryans, who went to the Texans, kind of broke that. But it's almost 90% offensive coordinators becoming head coaches in the NFL at this point. So I'm going to wrap this thing, Nevada. Any final thoughts on this episode? This is a great one. Appreciate you guys all tuning into this one. Any final thoughts about it?
No, just really excited about how the young cornerbacks on defense and how the offensive lines come together on offense. Answering a lot of questions for the OSU team for 2023, and bodes really well for the future of this season. I think it's going to be a special one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be awesome. So if you guys are loving it, if you guys are the biggest Ohio State fans in the land, BuckeyeScoop.com is for you. Going to have full coverage of the scrimmage. Got some practice stuff coming up the next few days. So really appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. Please hit that like button on the way out. Spread the word about Buckeye Scoop and about Ohio State Live, our show that we do every night. Love talking to you guys. Love taking your questions. You guys bring fantastic energy to the show. So we thank you for that, as always. If you're not a member of BuckeyeScoop.com, it is the most active message board in the Ohio State hemisphere. Awesome people, smart people, great conversation, great inside information on the football team, everything you'd ever want. If you enjoy the show, that is like the show 24 hours a day. So it's fantastic. We really have a blast on there. So I hope you guys join us. Join the Scoop family. We appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I will see you all on BuckeyeScoop.com. You guys have a good rest of your day. Go Bucks.